Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And March wears on already. Welcome again to your perfect morning starter. Wherever you're watching us from, it promises to be yet another incisive edition. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Kayode Okikilu. We continue to follow events in the Middle East after the U.S.-Israel attacked Iran. And of course, Iran has been attacking all of the U.S. bases, U.S. affiliated areas in the Middle East around it. And what a day it was yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump addressing the nation, essentially speaking to the rationale. For a lot of people, it's still not quite clear. Then we had Peter Hegseth speaking earlier on. That's the U.S. Secretary of Defense speaking about the motivation, saying the U.S. did not start the war, but the U.S. will finish it. He was a bit fiery. It was scary, really, for a lot of people watching, thinking, are we inching towards World War III? But then it took Marco Rubio much later in the day to give some more insight. That's the U.S. Secretary of State. And he said that, well, the rationale behind that attack on Iran by Israel and U.S. was that the U.S. anticipated that Israel was going to attack Iran anyway, and they figured that, well, if there's an attack on Iran, then there's going to be some sort of retaliatory attack that will affect the U.S. So Marco Rubio described it as some form of preemptive attack, right? And now it looks like Israel is the one dictating the terms now from what he said. But he had said if they had not done anything, that there will be hearings on Capitol Hill. They will say, well, you knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you do anything? So it looks like the more we hear from the officials, the more it is uncertain what this is about, when this will end, and if there would really be peace in the nearest future. But we can tell you indeed that Iran continues to attack U.S. affiliated areas. We understand that the U.S. Embassy in Beirut has also been attacked. Things are moving really fast, we must say. So far, 6 American military personnel have so far been killed, and you saw some of them being ejected from that aircraft yesterday in a friendly fire. That's what it's been described as. But clearly, this is impacting the world economically, the price of oil. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it looks like things might get worse from here, guys.
Indeed, there's more that we know. Other economies in the Gulf nations have also been hit. We understand that, airlines and, air travel has seriously been hit in the United Arab Emirates. We also understand that the members of the Gulf Cooperation Council are accusing Iran of violating their sovereignty. Of course, U.S. President Donald Trump has, ignored questions on Iran, but he has promised that, he will not rule out the possibility of putting more boots on ground. And, these Gulf nations, they have built their economies beyond oil and gas, on other aspects of economy. So even though these nations are not necessarily the enemy of Iran, that's my question this morning, and I wonder how you guys are weighing on it. And Iran is attacking U.S. installations in these Gulf nations of Kuwait, Beirut, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar. How will
and
they...
Riyadh, I should say.
And Saudi Arabia, yes. We also heard reports about the refinery that was hit also by Iran. So how would they respond, in this war? Would it be on the side of the United States of America, or are they going to queue up regardless, behind their co-Arab nation, knowing full well that some of their own, the attacks were happening on their own soil, and as a result, their economies have been hit? So I wonder how you're weighing in on this. And then we ask, again, more importantly, does Iran have the firepower to sustain this onslaught, beyond this period, perhaps the next 3 months, perhaps the next 6 months, knowing the scale of, technology that has been deployed to prosecute this warfare, guys?
It's interesting what's playing out eventually. But I don't see Iran backing down. It's more of an ideological warfare for them. So I don't see them backing down. I just hope that this doesn't escalate even further. That is the wider implication. Would it escalate further? We do not know. We're all watching with bated breath to see how the United States will continue in collaboration with Israel to see how they can prosecute this to the best of their ability. But depending on where you're looking at, United States and Israel, they have their own idea of what this war is about. Nukes, enriching materials, uranium, for instance, stockpiling materials, not allowing Iran to develop any form of nuclear, whether it's for commercial reasons or they don't trust Iran, first and foremost. But Iran, given the revolution that came in 1979, it's clear for them that this, maybe the Shiite nations of Islam are saying this is more of a religious war against our way of life. So when you speak to the Iranians, perhaps, who are revolutionaries, who are loyal to people like the Ali Khamenei, who the Ayatollah who has now been killed, and several other persons, it may be more of an ideological warfare than even fight around whether you have nuclear weapons or you don't have nuclear weapons. That's why they have what they call the axis of resistance across the region, from Hezbollah to Hamas to Hutu to some places in Pakistan and Syria and all of those places. Perhaps it's also why you have Israel, America have bases to keep them at bay. So everything is being strategic, and there will be collateral damage, like we've seen. I think one of the Aramco facility in Saudi Arabia that was hit by Iranian drone. We've also seen Iranian drones penetrate, whether it's the Iron Dome or the air defense system of Israel, because when they fire those barrages, how many can you really stop? So there's enough blame to go around as far as this is concerned, and motivation for everybody's action. But the most important thing is that the world wants peace. There's a very huge price the world will pay if this is not resolved as quickly as possible. And I want to say that, do I see this being resolved as quickly as possible? It depends on the scale of further destruction that we may see, that may make everybody say, okay, I think we need to get a room and have a conversation.
So that's where we're at right now. Things are moving quite fast, unprecedented times we're in. But we'll continue to follow, see how it affects Nigeria as well, and especially for Nigerian citizens, some of them caught up in countries in the Gulf, and it's important to ensure that the government is able to protect them. But that is it so far. But let's come back home and speak to security issues as well. Last week saw an attack on ADC chieftains in Edo State. Mr. Peter Obi, Chief John Odigio-Yegun. Well, the DSS, that's the Department of State Service, has arrested a man suspected to be behind the recent attack on 2023 presidential candidate of Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Mr. Obi, of course, a former governor, and Chief John Odigio-Yegun, yet another former governor and former chairman of the APC, and several chieftains of the opposition ADC were attacked, including Olumide Akpata, who was, of course, moving into the ADC. This attack happened on February the 24th by armed men who fired several gunshots shortly after the party's meeting in the state. And a lot of people then went on to dig out the post of this suspect. This post was put just after that attack. The user is at Steve Tom 7. That should be 788, right? There you go, Steve Tom 788, and that's what you have. Him saying, we warned Obi against his entrance into Edo State, but he mistook our resolve to, that's the term he used, idiot online noise. Thank his stars he survived this one.
Well, he goes on to say, I learned he's going to my river state. No wahala. Now my men go handle that one and them no go miss target. Speak no peace to, well, he goes on to say those things that he said and he goes on to say the things that he said. The question is, who are we when this user first says we warned Obi against his entrance? So who are we? It appears that this user has ties with Edo State and also has ties with River State. Now, the language deployed also is one of hostility, and it also, is reflective of the divisiveness in the nation's polity. Of course, we must speak to the facts. We must speak to the background before this visit to Edo State that saw the attack of leaders of the African Democratic Congress. Now that a young man has been arrested in connection with the attack, it's important also that, he's prosecuted, he's investigated, prosecuted, and whoever it is that has sponsored this attack is identified and determined. Then we can now get to the politics of it all and weighing on the resolve of the Edo State government to have any politician, without necessarily being specific about Mr. Peter Obi of the ADC, now formerly of the LP, to notifying the government before visiting Edo State for any of his future political engagements or otherwise. Of course, we know the politics behind this all with the ruling party and the African Democratic Congress. But should politics be divisive? Should politics deploy negative language that threatens? Should politics descend so low to becoming a do or die affair? That is what we should frown on and place a very huge question mark on and condemn in its entirety.
It's condemnable. I'm happy the DSS has swooped in. I don't know whether they swooped in because of his post or is directly connected with the incident. But since he was bold enough to put out a post threatening anyone in a sovereign state who has the fundamental right to go anywhere within the country because he has a right of movement, I think he should, they say if you do the crime, you should be able to do the time. He will have a lot of questions. I think he's giving the vibe that he represents Niger Delta. I don't know who made him the leader of the Niger Delta in that sense. So since he's done this, well, he should answer for himself and tell the security agencies exactly who he's speaking for, whether he's speaking for himself. But this is one thing I know for sure. He's gotten himself in a loop that'll be very difficult. He's going to explain himself beyond reasonable doubt for the security agencies to be able to allow him to go anywhere. And this is a warning to anybody who is careless with whatever they write on social media. Except he means it. Well, if he meant it, good luck to him. He will have his day in court. He will have his day in jail if they follow through to be able to establish a case against him. But what he did was absolutely irresponsible, condemnable, and not acceptable in any society. Leadership is not war. Elections and politics, they are not war. It's just divergent ideas on how to solve the same problem. And so that is not a responsible citizen of Nigeria. And so since he decided to be irresponsible, well, good luck. Him and the security agencies, we wish them well.
So we'll continue to follow that, and let's also tell you that the Nigeria Police Council yesterday unanimously ratified the appointment of Olatunji Disu as the Inspector General of Police. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga, the endorsement has paved the way for his swearing-in by President Bola Tinubu tomorrow, and the ceremony will take place during the Federal Executive Council meeting, which is scheduled for the same day. So these are some of the big stories in Nigeria today, but we have more for you in a moment as we take a look at the front pages. Stay with us.